Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome back. Am I the only one who thinks that the British national anthem sounds almost exactly like My Country 'Tis of Thee? Do you remember when I made my official Klitschko Fury fight prediction? And I think eventually experience and superior pedigree will win the day against youth and determination. For my official pick, I like Wladimir Klitschko TKO 6 over Tyson Fury. I was wrong again. And all that goes to show is that I still don't know shit about boxing. This is Rummy's Corner. One of the first things that jumped out to me fairly early in the fight between Klitschko and Fury was that Fury successfully made Wladimir look very uncomfortable and even a little bit confused, I thought. And the main combination of factors that contributed to this was Fury's herky-jerky style, where he was using a lot of head movement and he was bending and twisting around at the waist to move his torso, and he was changing the angles of his shoulders, dropping his hands, moving around, using a lot of different types of feints. And he had Wladimir very confused, very perplexed. He looked utterly baffled, but in the early going, Wladimir is typically a slow starter, so I didn't think too much of it at that point. But by the time the third or fourth round had ended, it became pretty clear that Wladimir didn't seem to know what type of adjustments he needed to make in order to turn the fight around. And basically, it was an outstanding performance from Tyson Fury, where he, much to my surprise, thoroughly outclassed a great tactician like Wladimir Klitschko. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you can make an argument that at best Vlad only won 1 or 2 rounds. I mean, I thought he pitched a near shutout, despite the fact the official cards were a little closer. And one of the other main weapons I think that Fury used in order to be so successful was something that the late great Emanuel Stewart had credited him with years ago, when he said that Tyson Fury had unbelievable determination. And in many ways, I think Tyson Fury willed himself to victory against Wladimir Klitschko. I mean, he was really firing on all cylinders with his feints and his head movement and that whole herky-jerky style. Vlad never knew where to throw punches. Vlad looked in there as if he was an old gun-shy fighter who was afraid to pull the trigger, and to some extent that may have been true, but I'm much more inclined to believe that Tyson Fury had a brilliant game plan, and he had an even more brilliant execution of that game plan. Because if it wasn't for all that subtle movement, where Fury was moving his head and twisting his waist and moving his shoulders and having really good footwork, knowing how to tie up on the inside, knowing how to fight well from the outside, and never going long periods at time without throwing punches, all those things combined spelled doom for the long-reigning champion Wladimir Klitschko. And I can't say enough about Tyson Fury's efforts. I mean, in heavyweight boxing, it's not unusual in the history of the sport where an aging all-time great heavyweight has had his struggles late in his career in his late 30s. I mean, we can look at the examples: Joe Louis when he faced Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali when he faced Larry Holmes, then in the 80s when Larry Holmes faced Mike Tyson, and continuing with that trend, much later on in Tyson's career when he fought and was knocked out by Kevin McBride. But in the case of Wladimir tonight, I'm not convinced that it was entirely due to Vlad's age, meaning, in other words, I don't want to take credit away from Tyson Fury. I think he fought the perfect fight, and even an old, aging Wladimir, who I think has clearly been in decline for a number of years, was still what most observers anticipated too much for Tyson Fury. And on this night in particular in Wladimir's career, I really think he could have used the advice of his late great trainer Emanuel Stewart. I think this is one fight where having Emanuel in his corner would have been incredibly valuable. Not that having Emanuel Stewart in his corner was never incredibly invaluable, it always was. And not to take a shot at Banks because we're comparing him to one of the greatest trainers that ever lived, but Emanuel had a way of motivating Wladimir and all of his fighters. And it wasn't just that he knew what to say, but he knew when to say it. And in the case of Wladimir in particular, he knew how to say it. And I think Vlad was missing that today, because I definitely think there are things Vlad could have been doing that maybe he wouldn't have been able to beat Fury on this night. But I think there were things he could have done to give a better effort, a better chance at retaining his title. And without a guy like Emanuel in his corner, I don't think that was ever inclined to happen. But I just can't help being reminded of the early going against Wladimir Klitschko when Emanuel told him you're losing the fight early on. I think in this case, Emanuel would have never let it got to the point where Vlad fell so far behind on the scorecards. And again, I mean, I wouldn't hold it against anyone that actually scored it a shutout for Fury. So thorough was the schooling he administered on the great champion Wladimir Klitschko. And this was a surprising night of boxing, surprising for me at least. And if they fight again, I wouldn't count Klitschko out completely, because he is a great champion and I think he could go in there and give a better account of himself at the very least. Even if it ends with him getting stopped, I think he should go out there and give it a try to win. But I'm not sure if Vlad could do much different, and I definitely don't like his chances as much, being he no longer has Emanuel in his corner, as I would be willing to give him those chances if he did. In any case, a surprising night of boxing, folks. This is Rumsfeld. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. Thanks for watching.